Bouge-toi les oreilles.
The film opens with a scene of Elias, a former army commander who lives in a modest apartment after retiring. Each time he leaves, he sticks tape on top of his door to ensure that no one enters while he is away. Elias headed to a nightclub, intending to meet his old friend whom he considered like a brother, named Jan. Jan offered him a job as a bodyguard at the home of a conglomerate. However, Elias realized that Jan was always involved with and worked with a group of thugs. This made him hesitate, and he ultimately rejected the offer.
Bon, dis-moi, j'ai quelque chose pour toi. Une famille du Moyen-Orient qui a loué un château pour les vacances. Ça les rassurer, un mec comme toi.
Pourquoi un mec comme moi? Pour l'instant, je suis déjà sur un truc.
When Elias returned to his apartment, he found that the tape he had put on the door was gone. This meant that someone had entered his room. He immediately took a pocket knife out of his pocket and slowly entered the room.
Ah, t'as un couteau maintenant.
However, it turned out that it was just the building's supervisor who had come to check on Elias. Based on several items he found in the room, the supervisor concluded that Elias was still suffering from post-war trauma.
Prends plus ton traitement. Il y a une ambulance qui va venir te chercher.
Elias, who took offense, decided to leave right away.
Elias!
Unable to think of anywhere else to go, Elias decided to meet Jan at his workplace, a skydiving rental service. After thinking it over, he finally agreed to accept the job offer he had rejected the night before.
Fous là-dedans, tu commences demain. Crois-moi.
This is the house of the conglomerate, Elias's new workplace. The owner, Jamal, is one of the most famous wealthy individuals in Dubai. Also living in the house are Jamal's younger sister Amina and Noor, Amina's only daughter.
Salam, monsieur.
Elias was assigned by Jamal to be a personal bodyguard, protecting Amina and Noor from danger. They were both descendants of wealthy people, which made them vulnerable to exploitation.
Ça, c'est important, c'est le mot de passe du réseau caméra.
Elias began his first task of watching over Amina as she swam in the luxurious pool. However, this task stressed Elias out a bit. The loud music bothered him. Noor kept pedaling his bike around and around without stopping, which bothered Elias. After Amina finished swimming, Elias was given a new task, picking up a delivery. Just then, Noor, being the mischievous child that she was, suddenly left the house, riding her bike onto the street. At the same time, two suspicious individuals were seen riding a motorcycle in the same direction.
Je voulais juste voir comment c'était derrière les murs.
Elias immediately reported what he had seen to the head of security. Upon hearing this, the head of security finally gave Elias a weapon, as a precautionary measure in case a similar incident occurred again. In short, night fell. Elias sat back and relaxed, while Noor observed the constellations through her telescope. Then, Elias shared his knowledge of the constellations they were seeing. He had been a special forces paratrooper, for whom knowledge of astronomy, including the constellations, was a basic requirement.
Comment tu connais les étoiles, toi?
Tuteur opérationnel dans l'armée.
Parachute. J'ai trop peur du vide.
The next morning, Elias witnessed an argument between Amina and Jamal. Jamal's strict rule prohibiting Amina and Noor from leaving the house while they were living in France was the cause. Jamal had not allowed the two of them to set foot outside for months, claiming it was for their own safety.
أعرف توج أبي أطلع مع نور.
Barwada baisse.
After being pressured by Amina and Noor, Jamal finally allowed them to leave the house. However, there was one condition. Elias had to accompany them and drive the car. For Elias, this was not an ordinary trip. He had to be more vigilant than usual in case something unexpected happened.
خلاص ماشي. أنا لم
Elias had just finished shopping and was about to go home when he saw the two motorcyclists who had come to his house the day before. They had diamond tattoos on their hands, just as he remembered. Without thinking twice, Elias sped off in his car, trying to avoid them as quickly as possible.
Vite.
Upon arriving home, Elias immediately asked Noor who they were and why they were following them. Finally, Noor told the truth. She and her mother had fled Dubai and her evil father. The two men they had seen earlier were most likely mercenaries hired by her father to kidnap them and force Noor and her mother to return to their home country.
Un homme de... Mon père voulait me marier à un homme. Oui, mon père, il se déteste. Il nous a sauvés. Je serai condamné. Elias.
Elias immediately went to see Jamal. He asked Jamal why everything had been kept from him from the start. He even pointed a gun at Jamal and demanded an explanation. But suddenly, a group of hired assassins broke into the house. The guards, including the guard dog, were mercilessly slaughtered. The dog managed to bite one of the assassins before finally dying. Elias did not stand idly by, though. He immediately sprang into action and killed several of the assassins he encountered.
ما في أي
Elias finally found Amina, who was scared and hiding. Using a communication device belonging to one of the killers that he had taken, Elias received some bad news. Noor had been caught and was now near the swimming pool.
C'est Noor.
After ensuring that Amina was safely in the car, Elias hurried to the swimming pool. Amidst this precarious situation, he grabbed an iron rod to use as a weapon. In the end, Elias managed to safely get Noor and Amina out. However, halfway through their journey, the group of killers caught up with them at a red light. With no other choice, Elias lured the killers into a residential area. Suddenly, their car broke down, forcing Elias, Amina, and Noor to exit and continue their journey on foot. To avoid being tracked, Elias threw away Amina's and Noor's cell phones. They then stopped at a bus stop, preparing to go to a safer place. They arrived at the settlement where Elias's half-brother lived. Elias was initially rejected due to an unresolved issue from the past. Eventually, however, he was allowed to enter and stay there temporarily.
J'ai juste traversé le muscle.
C'est grave.
Non. principal suspect du braquage est Elias.
Soon after, Elias's name appeared in the news. He was accused of being the main suspect in the murder of Jamal and his bodyguards. Elias began to suspect that Jan might be involved because he felt that something was wrong. Without wasting any time, he went straight to Jan to ask for an explanation.
De quel commando tu parles?
Pourquoi vous avez tué le courrier?
Jan claimed that he knew nothing about the incident. Instead, he questioned Elias's motive. Why would he kill Jamal and all his bodyguards? To prove his innocence, Elias took Jan back to Jamal's house immediately. When Elias got there, he was shocked at how clean and tidy the house was. There was no sign of a gunfight. But the real shock came when he opened the CCTV footage. On the screen, the main perpetrator was clearly visible. It was Elias himself.
Regarde. Il n'y a jamais eu de commando.
Elias started thinking that all of this was a result of the severe trauma he experienced after the war. He was so traumatized that he made up his own fantasies, as if he were still in the world of war, full of adrenaline. Even so, deep down, Elias wasn't quite sure. Was he really the one to blame?
Je me souviens de rien.
Jan took another look at the CCTV footage and found something surprising. It turns out the footage had been tampered with. This fact went against everything we thought we knew.
T'as vu? C'est un deepfake.
Bien sûr.
They copied the recording right away as evidence. It should be given straight to the cops. Jan also said he'd take Elias to meet the person. Who gave him the job first to show he wasn't part of all this chaos? The guy who gave Jan a job was named Durante and was also the one who manipulated the video recording. After being tortured, he finally confessed that Noor's father was a big shot in Dubai. The team that went after Jamal's place back then was called the Assassination Squad. It turned out to be an elite, highly trained commando unit. Noor and Amina were brought back, and Noor's father enlisted French intelligence to help with that.
Pour qui tu travailles? Non, ils veulent que la petite. Écoute-moi bien. La prochaine, t'es aveugle. Ils lâcheront jamais.
After finishing up with Durante, Elias and Jan immediately went back to their hideout. They said that France wasn't safe anymore. With things looking pretty grim, England was the only place that made sense for them to go. But if Noor's father's spies had gotten into the sea and air routes, Jan suggested the best route: traveling illegally with undocumented immigrants, sneaking into a container. On the way to the container location, Elias and his colleagues stopped to eat. But Elias got a bad feeling about someone who looked like they were in pain and was holding their wrist. Elias decided to follow him.
Tu vas où?
Garave a dû faire le coup.
Quoi?
Elias killed them one by one, brutally. One of them had dog bite marks on their wrist, clear evidence that they were the killers who had gone to Jamal's house before. When they got to their destination, Noor and Amina were put in a container with other illegal immigrants. Noor seemed pretty scared, and since it was her first time dealing with that kind of situation, Elias decided to go with them.
Et si...
S'il se passe quelque chose, je serai là.
ça veut dire que tu viens?
Très bien. Cell phone. Airplane mode.
A few minutes after the truck started moving, everyone was startled when it stopped abruptly. Elias began to feel uneasy, sensing that something was wrong. Suddenly, Noor was eventually kidnapped by the group of assassins. Amina died instantly from a gunshot wound to the head, as did the other immigrants who were also victims. The only survivor was Elias, who, as usual, always wore a bulletproof vest wherever he went. He managed to escape just before the truck exploded. We're moving on to the headquarters of the group of killers who are now holding Jan and Noor captive. The diamond tattoos on their hands make it clear that they're the ones stalking Noor and Amina. Meanwhile, after being tortured relentlessly, Jan finally gives in and starts to reveal who Elias really is.
Il est où, Elias Flores? On ne sait pas.
Elias is an expert in extraction and parachuting. He's completed over 24 missions, and he's a perfect record. In some missions, Elias took out at least 11 rebel leaders all by himself.
Elias, c'est pas un soldat. Et vous, avez remis en marche.
When the three mercenaries found out, they immediately killed Jan. They then got in touch with their colleague in Dubai, as it was likely that Elias would be heading there to save Noor.
En anglais ou en arabe. Il est extrêmement dangereux et il arrive.
And sure enough, just as they feared, Elias did intend to rescue Noor from her father. He went to see Jan's assistant, who worked at a skydiving service rental company. Elias didn't take long to find Noor, since he had decades of experience. He found her in a skyscraper that was also her father's residence. Once everything was all set, they took off right away that same night.
Sur place. L'aéroport privé est à 15 minutes à vol d'oiseau.
Les coordonnées de l'aéroport privé dans ton GPS. 30 secondes.
After landing on the roof of the building, Elias, who was fully equipped with combat gear, immediately moved inside. He wasted no time taking out the guards one by one. Elias finally managed to rescue Noor pretty easily. Everything was going smoothly. But then, as they were getting ready to leave, the building's security system kicked in and all the guards were sent out to track them down. Elias and the guards got into a shootout in Noor's dad's private collection room. He had to face several waves of troops that came one after another.
Bouge-toi les oreilles. Descends.
Elias used the elevator's CCTV cameras to keep an eye on his enemies. He took out all 3 targets from behind the door without having to leave. Then Elias asked Noor to stay into the elevator to keep her safe and went out to deal with the rest of the troops. After the whole army was defeated, Elias and Noor finally made it to the roof of the building. Elias was about to go into Noor's dad's room to finish him off, but Noor stopped him. She didn't need revenge anymore.
Allez.
When they got to the roof, Elias was ready to jump with Noor. Noor, who'd always been afraid of heights, was initially reluctant, but with no other options, she finally mustered the courage to jump.
Sauter ensemble.
Elias, tu sais bien que j'ai peur du vide.
Abandonné? Moi, je te lâche pas.
After everything was over, Elias took Noor to a school and gave her the chance to get a proper education. Elias wasn't a great guy, and he killed a lot of people, but this time he could help others have a better life.
Tu vas me chercher à la sortie, hein?
There was still one thing to take care of. 3 members of the group with the diamond tattoos are the ones who planned Jan's death. Elias was quick to take care of everything. 3 bullets flew from a distance, and it was all over.